Please allow me to introduce you to Jean Hull of Jacksonville, Florida. She is a member of the International Willow Collectors Society, of which we are integral parts, and one of the most delightful people you could ever possibly know. She was a big shot with Blue Cross in Florida, way more successful than any of us, although she doesn't play on that. That's just a fact. When she retired from her job with Blue Cross, she became a world traveler and photographer. She's been doing it forever, I guess, and she's really a pro. So on a daily basis, she puts beautiful pictures on, she posts those, whatever that means. Anyway, we see the pictures. And she always, because she was an English major, writes a delightful little homily saying something about the picture and about her mental state. And when she's finished all that, she says a single word: gratitude. Something about that hits me just right, and I wanted to introduce you to her as we do our subject today. It's gratitude. Webster defines that as a feeling caused by a favor accepted. We do that. If we are people of grateful, well, that's how that goes. I want to read a Jesus story. This is Luke 17, verse 11 and following. You notice that I can't see, so I may be a little halting. It's not my reading skills, it's my eyes, so don't worry about it. On the way to Jerusalem, he was passing along between Samaria and Galilee, and as he entered a village, he was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance, lifted up their voices, and said, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were cleansed. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice, and he fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks. Now he was a Samaritan. Then said Jesus, "Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" And he said to him, "Go, rise and go your way. Your faith has made you whole." That's a great story. Nothing much worse than leprosy. It was a death sentence. And it was not quick and easy. It was awful. You were separated from your people. You lived away from everybody and were treated about as bad as it possibly could be. And you didn't get any better. Sometimes somebody might get better, but not like this. They kind of, in a grasping of straws, "Please help us out." He says, "Go show yourselves to the priest." And there they were. Sometimes gratitude with our kids is a little bit of a problem, don't you agree? Somebody gives something to our kids, and they may or may not be happy about it. Our son Trey, I think leading singing today, he was very plain spoken in his childhood. He said to somebody that gave him some gift, and I don't know where it came from, "Why'd you give me that?" Trey, I don't do that anymore because he's large. You can look at that. So, as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about when I was a kid preacher in Texas, right out of college. I was doing everything I could to get to be friends with people, and I got to be friends with a lot of them. And when I moved away from there, you've heard me say I didn't think I would ever feel good again. I just felt awful. But Phil Watson called me and said, "Come up here and work for us at Oklahoma Fishing." Saved me, and here I am all these years later. In that church was a millionaire. His father had been a very successful car dealer, and he had inherited all that. He was a little bit strange, but we kind of took to each other. And he traveled a lot, and when he came back from traveling, he usually brought me a gift. On one occasion, he went to the Orient. Is it okay to say Orient? Went to Asia. And when he came home, he brought me a rock about that big, and you're supposed to put it in your pocket and put your hand on it and rub it. But, and on another occasion, he went to an auction. They were closing out a hospital, and he bought for me a wooden hospital tray that they used to feed you. You know, it was old and awful, and I don't know why he did that. But what I thanked him for was thinking of me. I wish he had thought different thoughts, but nevertheless, he was thinking of me. I feel kind of indignant when I read the story, don't you? Hear all these people. I can imagine a better gift that could have been received than to be healed of leprosy. And my comment about that is I think about this. An ingrate can cheapen the finest gift or favor. Talking about gratitude to this group, I feel it's kind of like preaching to the choir. Knowing part of the kinds of things that go on with all of you, the things that have been done and are being done. But this is our assignment, so we're going to go ahead and do it. Could I be a Bible scholar for just 2 or 3 minutes about this particular passage? Luke, as you already know, of course, was highly educated. And when he wrote the Gospel of Luke and Acts, they are really impressive documents. Any college professor would not hand them back, which you tend to do if you get some assignment handed in. This won't do. Would you please do this? There's going to be some problems coming from that. Luke divided his gospel into 4 very clear sections. Early days, that's the beginning, the stuff that happened in and around Judea, Jerusalem, and his coming out. He immediately went north, went on the road to Galilee, and that's section 2. In the commentaries, that's usually called the Great Galilean Ministry. Most of Jesus' great sayings and great actions were up north. He went up there, taking his show on the road. One of the things that Bible scholars talk about is the growing messianic consciousness of Jesus. He obviously didn't know from the beginning everything about himself and who he was to be and all that. His mother helped him a lot with that, and that's indicated in the Gospels. But while he was up in Galilee, it came to him full-fledged what he was, who he was, and what he was going to do. And Luke says when he had all that together, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. That phrase had to be, it had to be chords from the organ in front of it. Boom, boom, boom. He headed south to die. He was going to go down there and have the cross. That 3rd section is called the Journey to Jerusalem. It is on this journey that this story happens, as do others like it. Why did Luke put these stories in that section? To make a point that this Jesus is a universal Christ, not just for the Jews, it's for the whole world. A lot of different theories about Luke and Acts. Who was this Theophilus guy that they were written for? Years ago, I got on this kick thinking that they may have been a legal brief for Paul in prison in his hearing because of the way they were done, the structure and all that this Jesus was harmless to Rome. He didn't come to take over governments or politics. He came to save the world. What can be wrong with that And Paul then, that's talked about in Acts, preached him and practiced that. And here he is in prison. Anyway, this journey to Jerusalem is a marvelous section. It's 951 to 1927. You want to pay attention to that this afternoon, having heard me there. It will get you. It'll come to you. But he's on this trip, and he's in a Samaritan village, and this guy that comes back to say thanks is a Samaritan, and that had all kinds of meanings to it, which I won't spend any more time on that. A great document, this journey to Jerusalem. As I think about those guys, and that one that came back to say thanks, having the kind of mind that I have, my first reaction, of course, is always humor. Everything's a joke. Every funeral that I ever preached, something funny happened. Somebody stepped off the edge of the grave, or something always. Judy and I went to a funeral up by Stillwater some years back, a friend of ours. His brother got in a knife fight with a guy out in the road and got killed. They didn't have a funeral at the church. They had a graveside service. Now remember, this guy was killed in a knife fight, and the preacher's text is Samson. No. Goliath, David and Goliath is what I mean to say. It was like, did he not know what happened? And when it came time to have, it was a military funeral service, and they had 8 old guys older than me now, if you can believe that, with guns, and they pointed them at us when they fired. a bunch of people scattered. Well, I came home from that laughing. But this is serious business, and so would you permit me to get inside their head and propose what they may have been thinking and may have said to themselves? I don't know. I don't know whether this is actual or whether this is just me making it up, but anyway. The first thing I want to say about it is these guys were grabby. When it's time to open gifts at Christmas, kids get after it. And they want you to get after it. I like to sit quietly and open them gently so I don't tear anything up and so I don't get all excited, because you mustn't get all excited when you're my age. They grabbed that gift and took off. Yay, we're cleansed. Part about that that's kind of silly. They grabbed the gift and missed the giver. Jesus was at the beginning of time, the beginning of the universe, all powerful, almighty. He couldn't just clean up a little bit of leprosy. There was nothing beyond him. We know that now, and we confess that. One of my exams in graduate school was talk about the doctrine of creation in the whole Bible. Well, that's one of the things you emphasize first, is that Christ was there. They grabbed the gift and missed the giver. Is that dumb or what? I'd like to suggest that they may have had, the guys that booked it, they may have had something momentary that took their attention away from being truly grateful for what had just happened. I've known of so many cases of this in hospital visitation and all kinds of other situations where something real big has happened, but nobody can pay attention to it because of something. Well, yeah, they cleaned up my leprosy, but I've got a hangnail. I know all of you could put names to that, and situations where why are you focusing on that? There's a 10 over here, and you're worried about this one. That they just couldn't be bothered to. I mean, words will not say how good that gift was. My words just won't do it. I mean, there's nothing better than having been cleansed of leprosy. And so they go off They had things they had to tend to. I'm about to tell about a situation that happened at the college. I'll head this one up. This is going to cause problems. He has healed our leprosy. Now what? Here we are with these old nasty clothes. We haven't had a shower in months. We haven't been around anybody. I don't know where my family is. Well, now, what are we going to do now? Well, what they did is they took off. They fled. What they should have been paying attention to was, my, what in the world has happened to us? How good is this? Nothing has ever been this good. Back to OC, the story that I wanted to tell there. This happened occasionally. Some kind soul, somebody of real interest in the college, would make a gift, and in this case that I'm thinking about, a significant gift. I think it may have been in the millions. It was a lot of money, a big deal. In our faculty meeting, where we talked about it, the boss man said, this is going to cause us problems because we have money now to deal with, and everybody's going to be wanting part of it, and we're going to have a whole lot of trouble. And you're not supposed to contradict the boss, but I've always been bad about that. So I said, excuse me. The president was there, Terry Johnson, big pal of ours. Terry, would you please give the faculty the true reaction of the administrators to this gift? This is not a problem. What is this? Say it to us plainly. I don't remember how he said it. In my words, it was, hallelujah, thank you, Lord. Oh, this is wonderful. I hope this keeps on happening, or whatever other form. This was not a problem. This was something great. But for them, they may have had to hurry up and get home to get clean clothes. They weren't prepared to face what comes next. There is I don't know that I'm ready for the change. We've all heard the story about people who have been imprisoned, perhaps for long periods, and are let out, and unfortunately may have gone back to their cell, simply because their mental state was not ready to deal with freedom. I've been in lots of situations where, for one reason or another, some kind of freedom came to people. And they said, I don't know that I'm ready for that. I don't have the mental state there to help me deal with that. That may have been on their mind. They may have been mad about that foreigner. We know that race prejudice, ethnic prejudice, whatever kind of prejudice, tends to push everything else out. Nothing else matters when that's in your face. So here are these guys, all of them good Jews, and this one foreigner. Where does he get off getting in on this? Who says it's all right for him? I mean, what is Jesus about? Messing around with foreigners. Does he not know better than that? Does he not know that he's a Jew and we're all Jews and we don't need to be wasting God's stuff on foreigners? We don't know that was on their mind, but it very well may have been, because it was in various times. I'd like to be a psychology teacher for just a second, if you'll forgive me. Famous researcher years ago studied human morals, specifically moral development. Meaning, how do you decide right and wrong? not what you decide, but how you decide it. And he postulated 5 main levels of moral development. The earliest stage is the child. I want that and it's good. Because I want it, if I can have it, it's good. That may not be a very good basis for deciding about moral things. So as we get older, we get more mental about that. And a pretty high level is we learn to go by rules and regulations. We have controls to control society, to help us to be civilized. And then we have some people keep those and some don't. That's not the highest level, though that is a very high level. There are those who get really high and go by principles. They make their decisions based on what is best for everybody. It's pretty rare. We're talking Jesus there, and maybe a half dozen human souls that we honor. These guys may have just been kids in their mental development, moral development. Well, hey, this is good. I've got it and I'm gone with it. I don't care what happens to you. I don't care what you're thinking or why you did it. I got it, and yay for me. In the world of psychology, we do all kinds of experiments with animals. One of my favorites is with raccoons. You teach raccoons to earn some kind of chip, a checker or something like that, which they can drop in a machine and get food. It isn't very long until they start trying to hoard those chips. They cling them like this, like we do money or other things. That what matters here is, have I got it? Am I ahead of the game here? Am I winning? Not what is the best thing in all this. That may have been them. It may just been, I don't care about him. I don't care why he did what he did. He did it and I've got it. Get out of here. One other thing like that is the concept of groupthink. Y'all know that phrase. Groupthink was what happened back in the 60s when John Kennedy and all of his very intelligent people got together and decided to invade Cuba. It may have been the stupidest political military decision in the history of the world. There was no chance that was going to work. And after it was over, everybody said, why in the world did they do that? That was incredibly stupid. The answer is groupthink. When you get a bunch of smart people together, they may come up with the world's stupidest idea. I've been in lots of meetings like that. You get a college faculty together, particularly if you've got administrators in the bunch, and you're going to come up with some really dumb stuff. It may have been that they just got to thinking, well, do we need to go back? No, it just bothers him. He's busy. He's out there baptizing people and saving people, saving the world, and looking after things. No, we don't need to do that. He didn't want to see us back there anyway. Groupthink may have been that. They may have said to themselves, this guy's leading a cult. We know about this cult, though we live away from everybody. We know about this Nazarene cult. I ain't joining that cult. He healed us, yeah, that's right. But I ain't joining that cult. May have been that. It may have been, yes, I'm healed, but will it last? I've had times before when I thought I was better. That was the history of my nose. I assume you all can see that I've got the bandage off my nose, so I look really gross. I doctored that nose for several months, thinking, yeah, it's getting better, getting worse. That's what we worry about when we get healed. Yeah, I'm better, but tomorrow I may be worse. For those of us of some age, and nobody like that in here, we feel pretty good today, but how are we going to feel tomorrow? That may have been on their mind. Yes, I'm really happy to have been healed, but now I'm worried about how it's going to be tomorrow. In any event, they just messed up something awful. I think that's all I want to say about that. Except I would make one more little joke of the thing. This Samaritan, when he came back, got on his knees and fell on his face. It may have been his help, I can't get up. Maybe they didn't want to do that. They didn't have their little button with them that Charles held. In any event, what they did is just disgusting. And the one guy, the Samaritan, came back and got it right. And so we know where we're headed. So, for a minute, what is gratitude? What is it made out of? What is the stuff? What are you feeling when you feel something? Will you permit me again to be a psych teacher for just a second? The theory that answers that question is called the Schachter two-factor theory. Put that be on the test. The Schachter two-factor theory. Step one, something in your environment, internal or external, stimulates you, it turns on the lights. That's how I like to think of a state of arousal. Something comes and turns on the lights. That turn on state at first is undirected, neutral. It is not anything in particular. It is just simply a state of being turned on. Now, don't be thinking of a long separation. We're talking immediate. That's step one. It's nothing in particular. Step two is the interpretation and resolution of that. The human brain is designed to put meaning to that. What am I feeling? If there's a grizzly bear here about a foot from me, I'm feeling fear. You better flee, etc., etc. If there's a big fire coming, your interpretation of that is, I'm scared, let me run. So gratitude is a state of arousal, and the brain interpreting that says, thank you. The proper response to that in a situation where you get the favor is thank you. An interesting thing about that, what if that state happens, that aroused state, the motor is on, and your brain gets it wrong? It has been my experience in several situations because of the job that I had, to announce to someone, a crowd or individual's disaster. My face is usually a signal, here comes fun. I do that on purpose because that's what I like to do. So in chapel at OCC, when I went out, people assumed, here he comes. He's going to tell us a big joke, which I might or might not going to be. But say I just got word that one of our fellow students had lost a parent, and I need to announce that. And I say, I have an announcement to make. It's very serious. Everybody laughs. You've seen that happen where somebody got a message and immediately laughed and immediately then began to cry. Their brain reinterpreted that. So you get the favor, you get healed, and immediately your brain says, "Ooh, this is the best thing that ever happened." And there's that guy on his knees praising God and thanking for all that good stuff. That's a great thing, isn't it? I know you all. Some I know better than others. I know you. I know that we're all grateful people. But we still ask the question, what can I do to ensure that I am a person of gratitude? You remember that our series is Guardrails. Things to keep us from slipping off in the ditch on either side. Well, I've got a couple of little things here I can say about that. I think I've got time to do that. First, let me say, pay attention. There are lepers getting healed all around, and it may be you, figuratively speaking, of course. Of all the millions of things that happen, you may or may not notice. And if you do notice, you may not remember. Paying attention. A lot of people in the counseling room bring a problem and they don't know what the problem is or why. I think of this one. a young stepfather, had a son who was 6, I think. And he had been reacting to that boy with anger and punishment. And he came to me saying, I know that that's not right. It's not his fault. I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing. Can you help me with that? No, but you can help yourself. First of all, let me ask you this question. Could you control your anger in the presence of Wilt Chamberlain? You all know who Wilt Chamberlain was. 7 feet tall, about 300 pounds, could run like a deer. He was a Superman. And he said, oh, yeah. Yeah, I could control my temper. Wilt Chamberlain. If you can control it with Wilt Chamberlain, you can control it with that son. What I did was put him on to doing a journal. When you feel anything like anger, stop right then and put that in the book and what you were doing. We've got to make you aware of what is causing that, what is happening to you. And becoming aware of it will make it easier for you to react positively back. He brought his notebook in after a week and he had a whole list of them there. He said, hey, that's amazing. I had no idea that was going to. We just don't keep track of all the good stuff. I couldn't begin to say all the good things that have already happened to me this morning. But if you want to work on that a little bit, keep a journal. Write down the good things, the favors that are happening to you. And what you'll find is that you having paid attention, you'll be better about that. Let me see what I didn't say about that I need to say. Sometimes you and I fumble when favors happen to us. We're really clumsy. Somebody does something really good for us and we don't know what to say or what to do. I'm particularly bad about that. I like to give gifts, and sometimes I like to get them, but mostly I don't know what to do and what to say. Well, thank you, but I always have to have that thank you, but in there to justify somehow being the recipient of that favor. As far as being one who causes gratitude, I'm thinking of a Wednesday night in the old Cail Church building. A guy was there trying to see our minister of philanthropy. They needed some gasoline. They were traveling on a trip. I'm walking along here with another friend of mine, and I'm trying to direct the guy to our minister that did that. And my friend just pulled out $20 and gave it to him. So we say, people, if you want to do that, jump in there and get wet. The sudden production of good favors will cause gratitude and will make you grateful. Don't you feel especially nice if you have a child or a relative that's having a little bit of a financial problem and you're able to slip on $1,000? That does you a lot of good. Probably does you more good than it does them. We ought to be receivers of the favors and givers. Rehearse after you do it. Do y'all take inventory when you wake up in the morning? I have about 3 or 4 minutes of good things that I think about, and then here come the bad. I'm really great at rehearsing things I shouldn't have said, things I shouldn't have done, which is stupid. But rehearsing what you have done puts those in place. If you can't think of a name, if you can't think of an action, it's because you haven't had it in front of you lately. The leaky bucket theory has happened. That is, things leak out. But if you keep them in front of you, they don't leak out. Let me do one of my favorite stories, if I could, to close this out. This happened 51 years ago. And I want to say right quick, I've said everything about all the stories that I tell. Don't take me as a hero of the story, okay? You'll be getting it wrong if you do. This is one of my favorite stories because it happened so long ago, and I've used it so much and had such a good time with it. In 1972, the Village Church of Christ over on Britain Road had a big split. I had just come back from Baylor. They came to me and said, will you be our preacher till we kind of work this out? Yes, I will. So I did. I became their minister, and I did that for most of the years. I need to say they were paying me big money. Okay, let's get that. They pay me $75 a week. So I want you to get half of where this all was. We did that and things went pretty well. What I did was be a slave driver. I worked like a dog and I worked everybody else like a dog. We did every possible thing that could be done for that time. And then it comes time for it to end. Don Vincent has come back from the mission field and has been hired to be the preacher. And I get to quit doing that for a while and just be a college teacher, which is what I'm supposed to be doing in the first place. And on the way to church that morning, I said to my wife, they're going to brag on me today and give me some Tupperware and electric blanket. Y'all recognize that Teddy Price pattern? You understand where I'm coming from there? They didn't say a word. It was my last day, and they literally did not say a word. Now, I can't tell you about the quality of my work for that year, but I can tell you I worked like a dog. I mean, I got after it, and then I was through. Didn't say what. I was about to cry. Here's this grown man driving back, thinking, good enough. She said, well, why don't you quit and do something else? No, they didn't mean anything. They also forget their wife's birthday. They didn't just do that to me. I wound up working for them 25 more years. My friend Barry heard me telling that story, and he said to me later on, after he heard it a few times, Cail, I'm tired of that Tupperware and electric blanket stuff, and bought me an electric blanket and some Tupperware. 51 years later, it still causes me gratitude because I get to tell the story. You're grateful because we're through, aren't you? We are. We're through, y'all know.